Hey everybody, it's me, Buster Green, and welcome back to my review of Gquuux, where last week was something of a lighter week where we only had about 10 minutes of new content. Otherwise, the first half of the episode was the end of the beginning film. Now, as a result, the reactions online are also about half as numerous, but here's what stuck out on this week's Episode 8 Roundup and Ranking. Now, first of all, not even viral or anything, but there was a direct discussion about what the G-Fred is, and now people are able to figure out that the whole Gquuux G-Fred is part of the use of a metastatic variable chart. And I don't know why it took us so long to figure this out, but yeah, that means the Gquuux codename is actually a syntax overriding its actual name of G. Waldo. So I guess its name was Waldo all along. Although some people think Waldo could be mistranslated through Japanese into G-Worldo, G-World, therefore making the series' actual name Gundam World. It seems a little bit silly, but then again, is it any more silly than Gquuux? Now, this makes people wonder if Gquuux is the 9th in the series of Zeon Gundams, which would also track with vague allusions Anno was making that there would be more Gundams showing up in this series, but it's also possible he was alluding to the Fred or the Psycho Gundam or whatever. Now, there are a few people who were disappointed that the G-Fred wasn't the beta Gquuux from the art book, which had a slightly more menacing Zeon Mono Eye design, which made it look a little bit more like the GNX from Gundam 00. But yeah, because this thing had a big 02 ran on it, many people thought that this would be the Gquuux Unit 02, so they were all surprised when they got the Fred instead. I do kind of like the look of the Zeon Mono Eye with the Gundam V-fin on top. I do think that would have been a cool design, and I think I definitely would prefer the Mono Eye to the bug eyes it has in the final design. By the way, we now got an interesting shitpost theory going viral online that Gquuux is actually a time travel story where someone went back in time to make Zeon win the One-Year War. The evidence of that is why the G-Fred has a head like that, with a couple of people noticing that the G-Fred's head bears a shocking resemblance to the head and cockpit of the Sazabi. And as we last know, the Sazabi was recently salvaged at the end of Gundam Twilight Axis by Zeon remnants. Now, I don't know who would have facilitated or caused this time travel theory of sending the Sazabi back in time, but it doesn't really make sense in the overall stretch of things, because if they were sending the Sazabi back in time, I feel like they would have led with that. Okay, anyway, here's the overall ranking of what went viral this week. At the bottom of the list, with a single ominous lore drop, was Glemmy Toto. Glemmy stands from 1986 are waking up hard from their long slumber and celebrating the return of the Neo-Zeon Civil War. But it's actually fascinating when you think about the Haman-Glemmy Civil War conflict. It's actually a direct mirror to the one playing on Gquuux between Kycilia and Gihren, and that's interesting to me because we're about to see basically the same war play out with a lot of the same players but different commanders in charge. But hopefully it means we will see Haman and Glemon and some of those other Double Zeta folks, and man, I'll lose my shit if I actually see a Quebly in Gquuux. But I'm overall really excited to see what the hell Gihren is dealing with and if Glemmy is in Giren's ranks. Next up, also at the bottom of the list from 1988, was Gunbuster, Hideaki Anno's prolific girl-on-girl sci-fi mecha survival anime. People have noticed that a few of the cuts from the Battle of Granada and Gquuux directly line up with the climax of Gunbuster in such a way that it actually caused Hideaki Anno to have to come out of his house and make a public statement that he neither condoned or caused this or influenced this, and it was entirely Tsurumaki doing a tribute to him, and I guess overall he's cool with it. Dukes Murasame was in third place this week, despite being dead for the past 2 weeks. Dukes Murasame is still on the board. We got a Ghibli Psycho Gundam by Ionosuke. Psyop did this funny art of the Psycho Gundam and the Sodon having a tug-of-war against each other. And my favorite Dukes art of the week was this one by someone who noticed that since Gquuux and modern Pokemon share the same character designer, Take, you can swap out Dukes for Roxy from Pokemon Black, and Dukes looks strangely natural in Roxy's outfit. While Roxy, however, seems marked for death in Dukes' costume, which is funny. Alright, that leaves us with the second and first place rankings, where we actually have two ties this week. Firstly tied for second was Nyan, which was kind of ironic considering she was the lead in this episode. We got excellent art of Nyan doing the Dr. Manhattan against Miguel, Nyan learning how to cook from Kycilia, and Nyan doing the Shining Finger, because why the hell not? Also, this is hilarious. I don't really get why Nyan said the G-Fred looked like Kycilia other than it being purple. So in this comic, it's literally a Kycilia Gundam, and honestly, I think some part of me would have preferred that. Also tied in second place was Lala Soon, with people being very excited and reverential about her return. We got a couple of people just drawing beautiful portraits of Lala alive and well in UC-85, hotter than ever in some depictions, and laser-sharp viewers were able to point out that The dress Gquux is dancing with in the end of the credits is actually the dress that Lala wears in the show, potentially foreshadowing that Gquux is bound to fall in love with Lala in this episode. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe Lala is the mother replacement Gquux is seeking out now, although I love Murasame's snarky comment that this will ultimately result in CCA happening all over again, just with Gquux and Nyan fighting over dead Lala. However, it wasn't all praise, though. We have Dai Umakai over here criticizing that Lala still being able to break up Char and Sayla from wherever the hell she was at is just not as dramatic as it was in the original series, with him joking that this art here shows, like, what the hell was Lala doing if she wasn't fighting with them? Was she on her lunch break? Was she eating noodles? Was she just saying, hey, cut it out, I'm eating here? So that brings us to first place. Ironically tied for first place with two characters not actually officially in this episode. Tied for first place in first place was Gquux. We had a couple people who I guess want to see Zeon Gquux and think and agreed that Zeon Gquux would have long, cool hair. We got this great art where she like slowly comes around on Shalia and like comes to be like a good citizen of Zeon. There was otherwise a large tangent of people warming up to the idea that Gquux is ultimately going to go psycho on Nyan and maybe be the bad guy from Nyan's perspective at least. But yeah, that would be a big bait and switch if Nyan was ultimately the hero and Gquux was ultimately the bad guy. We got some light predictions for the next episode that Gquux's mom will publicly disown her to save face at her career, while other people were predicting that Gquux would do the cross of sand cliche, burying her Gundam in the desert, maybe running into Rambarel and revealing what the hell a goof looks like in the Gquux universe. And finally, maybe none of that will happen. Maybe Gquux will fall straight into a Looney Tunes style hole and encounter Lala immediately as soon as she gets out of her Gundam. Then also tied for place was Char, or rather the mysterious young man who the internet has quickly concluded is probably Char. But all the memes are definitely just, it's Char, just don't even try, it's Char. And not actually memes of the mystery guy. Okay, here's one of the mystery guy where it reveals that the mystery guy is actually Haro in a robot suit, although this is technically a deep cut Jujutsu Kaisen reference. Yeah, otherwise the rest of these memes are just like, oh, it's Char, that's obviously Char, rip his sleeves off, put some glasses on him, that's definitely Captain Quattro. He is a Char. And so that sets the stage for a very exciting episode this week. Also in the honorable mention category, the Gquuux Red Gundam model kit came out this week. So there was a lot of fun models of people just kind of kit bashing it and making some alternative Gundams that I feel like are worth showing real fast. This one's funny. G3. Oh, this is a Kamen Rider reference. Nice. Thank God I have to add this video because I'm so anxious and excited to see what happens. All right, catch you guys on the flip side. Okay, run Amate. Oh damn, we're not even seeing what happened on the Sodan. We're going straight to the atmospheric reentry. Okay, wow, fun. So the Gquuux core fighter actually ejects and the Gundam is lost in the ocean, and straight up Looney Tunes style, we're straight on to Lala who's standing in her underwear. So Gquux wakes up this mansion that is the Kaba's estate. Her phone is still cracked and she has no phone coverage on Earth. Gquux tries out the gravity and is excited to go to the ocean and to see the real sky. And then she has a flashback to how she got off the Sodan, where Kamui came in, talked to her, and returned her phone and her Haro, and apparently gave her civilian clothes from her personal closet. Amate gets a million texts from her friends and mostly her mom, considering all the circumstances. And then the flashback switches back to real life, where the hell is going on with Lala, who might be working as a mistress or a brothel owner. Then back on the Sodan, Shalia and Gquux have this talk about the Earth being devastated from the One-Year War, Gquux being so much sheltered that she grew up in the suburbs of Side 6 where everything was relatively normal. Then Gquux debates where Shuji is, and Shalia reads her mind with his piercing new type abilities and realizes that Shuji is also seeking out the Rose of Sharon. Shalia then reveals, oh god, the Rose of Sharon is some time travel bullshit item? Oh shit, the time travel theory is true. Is the Rose of Sharon going to be Sasabi's head, like people were thinking? Anyway, so Shalia turns out to not be the warm father figure Gquux needed, but a man desperately seeking Char against all odds. Meanwhile, someone lets Gquux out of jail, and that's how she escaped. Oh wait, did Shalia let her escape? Or is Shalia the guy texting her? No. Shalia is just monitoring her texts because Shalia made a clone of her phone, but he does agree to let her go to see where she goes. And okay, yeah, so Shalia let her go, but he doesn't know who the mysterious figure is who's influencing Gquux. So back on Earth, Gquux finally runs into Lala, and yeah, she's definitely running or living at a brothel. Lala starts by talking up Bards again, which is very similar to the first thing she said when she encountered Amuro Ray. Machu seems to have sensed Lala through the Kira Kira. I want to say this is the same Kira Kira she saw when Shiko died. Then Lala remembers the original timeline, and holy shit, Lala is severely traumatized by knowing she's supposed to be dead in the original timeline, and that this is a timeline where she never fulfilled her true potential. Her infinite knowledge that Amuro will always kill Char, and that she dreams of Char dying constantly, even though she doesn't know who she is. So then Lala's maids end up coming around and burning down the brothel. Lala and Machu run to the core freighter, and Machu basically tries to free Lala, but Lala refuses to go without Char because she's waiting for Char to meet her. So Machu flies over the ocean, and Haro seemingly takes control of the Gquuux to recover the Gundam, and holy shit, the Rose of Sharon is the Elmeth? Okay, that's shocking, but then again, actually, I always thought it was the Elmeth, but my brain is scrambled here. All right, so hell yeah, the Gogs are here, but okay, weirder still, the original timeline Lala is inside the Elmeth. Wait, what the what? Okay, so that's effing crazy, and we don't seem to have time to process this, as the next episode seems to be going back to Nyan's storyline, where she fights with Xavier and the Gyan, seemingly straight at a big mobile suit battle at the Yomagantho, where Giran and his secretary will finally show up. Wow, okay, crazy ending. That's either some big time travel BS or some big multiverse BS, but good God, they kept it vague enough that it could have gone either way. But so, yeah, now we officially have two Lalas on the timeline. One of them is the seemingly frozen in time original series Lala, frozen seemingly at the moment of her death in an equally frozen Elmeth. And Shalia points out that the Elmeth in this timeline was never constructed, so the whole like Rose of Sharon situation is very weird. It looks like they basically claimed it around Solomon, where Lala would have died in the original series, but meanwhile, the vague posting prostitute Lala really doesn't inspire a lot of hope in me either. I'm borderline pissed she didn't run off with Machu. I was kind of really super psyched up to see her finally depart on a new adventure, and now I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't quite get to it. I guess Machu couldn't escape with Lala because she had to rejoin with Shalia and like keep that story going, but I'm really disappointed if they're already leaving Earth after only being on Earth for half an episode. At least we saw the Gog and the Zagok and the Mad Angler for like a couple of seconds, but yeah, weird episode. Not sure what to like get out of all this. Yeah, I have no idea why a second Lala has manifested in this timeline. It is very, very unusual. Is the second Lala just straight up OG Lala, like flexing her full abilities? I guess that would make sense. And then also the Lala that stopped Char from killing Sayla was OG timeline Lala, noted by her OG timeline outfit. It feels like the fact that the Gquuux timeline Lala doesn't have the yellow dress is what differentiates them. So yeah, that means the Lala in the last episode was OG timeline Lala. So yeah, I guess the theory about OG timeline Lala being like a multi-dimensional entity is actually seeming coming to pass. Just, I don't really understand how or why and what the full ramifications of that are. Back in episode 2, the beginning, Char kept mentioning that he kept having flashes of intuition about what to do. It's possible original timeline Lala was influencing Char to change the timeline, maybe to rescue her, but I guess that's not how it all played out. But yeah, this is a very, very weird turn of developments. All right, actually, hold on. I'm thinking about it now, and a lot of the mysteries of the timeline become crystal clear after this episode. So it seems like I'm getting a read on what this episode was about, and effectively, around the time of Gundam Unicorn, original timeline Lala essentially became a god and decided at the end of the day, the main thing she wanted to do was undo UC Char's death at the end of Char's counterattack in the original timeline, and I guess deep reading into her words in this episode, it seems like she's rerun the UC timeline a couple of different ways, but at the end of it, they all end with Char dying, and in her words, at the hands of a white mobile suit. So Lala seemingly is implying there that even without Amuro, Char is fated to die in whatever way from whoever pilots the Gundam, or I guess the light gun cannon or whatever. Anyway, yeah, the Gquux is also some kind of Gundam. So does that mean Amate is fated to kill Char? But so also this means that, yeah, the Gquux timeline is some weird creation of UC Lala doing crazy time travel. I guess she time traveled back to the start of the anime to influence Char to make different moves, but perhaps because of the time paradox at play, she's also frozen in time the second before she dies. And that, I guess, indirectly confirms that Long Banks is definitely Char, and I guess that leaves us at a really interesting impasse going into next week. Because even if Char is alive or not, the Gquux timeline is for the most part a worse timeline than the original UC because a majority of Char's main desires have gone unfulfilled. But I guess if Char is back in play, maybe this really is Lala's selfish desire for Char and her to finally be united and settle down together. Damn, that's crazy, but maybe it'll work out. Or maybe it won't. Yeesh. Okay, well, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm kind of like very shocked by this one. All right, out of here.